r/askreddit. What's the stupidest way you've hurt yourself? I once went on my balcony to smoke a cigarette, only I forgot there was no balcony anymore because it was getting fixed. So I broke my leg falling 1 story down. Now the real irony was, my mother wanted to fix the balcony because it was old and she was afraid it might break off and I might hurt myself. I hope someone watched you just walk out of a door into thin air a story up. Shit, I wish I watched you do it. In, like, a nice way. Did you float in midair until you looked down and realized there was no floor? Edit. Thanks for the silver, I did not expect that. Damn it mom, don't ever move my smoke station again. I was being attacked by aliens in a dream. When they backed me into a corner I kicked one hard in the head. I woke up immediately in pain. I had just kicked my wall in real life. Badly sprained my ankle. Couldn't walk properly for a week. Whoa, most of the responses here sound more painful than stupid, but your one must have made you feel pretty silly afterwards, haha. The alien was probably so embarrassed that you owned him, so he implanted that memory of you kicking the wall instead of his big dumb alien brain. Haha. If it makes you feel any better, I had a dream where a wasp flew up my nose and when I swatted at it, it stung me. When I woke up I had scratched my nose up so bad it was cut and bleeding a little bit. I think that's what I felt when I got stung. Nothing serious, but I can definitely see how you could hurt yourself so bad. Sleeping is more dangerous than people realize, lol. Had one similar to yours. As a kid, we lived very near an active set of train tracks. Being constantly warned away from them by our parents, it's no surprise we kids grew up with a healthy fear and frequent nightmares of getting caught on the tracks. I was about 12 years old, dreamt I had stumbled on the tracks, and of course a huge freight train was bearing down on me. In the dream, my friend scampered to safety, but I was inexplicably bogged down and moving in slow motion, clawing at the dirt and gravel to try to get over the rail. In my last ditch effort to reach safety, I dove for it. I literally flew out of my bed, halfway across the room, and cracked my head on the corner of my dresser. My mom patched me up and drove me to the hospital. Ended up with a few stitches and a big bowl of ice cream that night. In high school I was showing off with a staple gun and accidentally stapled myself in the chest. Then, when telling the story later, picked up a staple gun to demonstrate and accidentally did it again. I am not a clever person. At least you were consistent with your storytelling. Edit. Wow, thank you kind stranger for the silver. Kind of reminds me of a story I heard about a teacher telling his class about the death of Socrates and demonstrating what happened when you drink hemlock by drinking hemlock in front of his class. Didn't go too well. Kevin? I've sneezed and had a sharp neck pain for a week after. This has happened more than once. I threw my back out sneezing once. That was not fun. My neck feels like shit after I yawn really hard sometimes. Just realized I have one for me too. When I was in like middle school I was shaving my legs and then I brought the razor up to put it back on the shelf and I held it too close to my body and I cut my nipple open. Hurt so bad. Didn't tell my parents or see a doctor, just had a swollen cut nipple for a while. Edit. Wow, I didn't realize I wasn't the only one. Thank you for all the comments. Some of these stories have made my skin crawl. Be safe people. Shelf. OMG, I did this too. I didn't tell anyone. It's been 2 years but it still hurts when I shower. Edit. Hahaha, for everyone asking why shelf, I accidentally highlighted the word from the original comment. I'm new to Reddit. That could have been dangerous, in case of an infection. I know it sounds very Looney Tunes, but I actually stepped on the head of a rake once and the handle hit me in the face. Annoyed sideshow Bob groan. Haha, yeah same. In my defense, it was in a very crowded shed. In my own defense, I did it twice. Life imitates art. Jumped from the roof of our house when I was 10, to see if it hurts or I'll survive. When I landed it was like an electric shock on my feet. Edit. I survived and yes it was stupid, but when you are a child you tend to brag anything to your friends, so yeah. Did hurt like hell though. I did the same thing except I used an umbrella instead of parachute, and when my friend asked does it hurt I said no so that he does the same. Well, I might die, but I've got to know, yeah no? Know that feeling. Electric shock is one real way to describe that feeling. Alright, so my sister is only 1 year older than me, and when we were very young, me 3 and her 4, we were in the bath together. I guess my mom thought this way was easier. She left to get something and my sister said that I should dive into the tub like a dolphin. Me, being the idiot toddler I was, decided this was a wonderful idea and dove right in. Had to get 3 or 4 stitches and a lifetime of stories told about it. I can hear the bonk from here. Imagine walking away for 5 seconds, hearing that satisfying thunk, a slash, followed by the banshee cry. When I was 13 I was walking down my street and there was a bee that landed on me right under my eye. In a brilliant move I brain farted and punched myself in the face trying to swat it away. My sister did a version of this. She swung a loaded shopping bag at a wasp which was flying between her and my mother. Missed the wasp but not my mother, who had no idea what was going on, and just thought my sister had lost her shit and whacked her with a heavy shopping bag out of pure spite. So my mum rolled up her sleeves and set about my sister whilst I walked on as though I had never seen either of them in my life before. You're the sibling that I never had. I was 8 years old and running home on my lunch break so that I could watch Inspector Gadget, which came on at noon. I decided it would be neat to look down at my feet while I ran, and next thing I know I've run full speed into a parked car. I think I laid like a dead body on the road for a good 5-10 minutes. It hurt so badly. I was late for my Inspector Gadget episode and never told anyone what happened. I thought I had nothing to add, but your stupid self-injury reminded me of mine. I was about 13, riding my bike home, full speed, after buying the newest release of Teen Beat, Teen Girl Heartthrob magazine. I was riding through a plaza, not in the parking lot but in the walkway. A woman opened the door to the Family Dollar, right in the collarbone. Thrown off my bike and had to go to the ER via ambulance. My boy band pics had to wait. I was finishing up this intense jigsaw puzzle, which was on a low table, so I spent the entire night crouching on the balls of my feet. The next morning, my right foot turned purple and swelled up to the size of a large orange. I was on crutches for a couple of weeks. Whoa. Never thought of puzzling as an extreme sport before. I should warn my retirement-age mother. My brother was teasing me while I was doing homework. Think I was maybe 8 or 9 at the time, and after a few minutes, I snapped. Took my pencil and went to jab him with the eraser end, so as to not hurt him too badly and get him to shut up. To get a bit more force behind it, I decided to wrap my index finger over the other end, the end with the point. I'm sure you can guess what happened next. A lot of crying and a trip to the emergency room later. I had a pencil point being removed from my finger. Reminds of the video of that fellow who tried to open a beer bottle with a bamboo skewer by smacking it in the bottom with his hand. Not about me but someone who sat next to me in a class a while ago. She was clipping her toenails and a big toenail flew up and hit her in the eye and she had to go to the doctor cause it cut her eye. So she has a bandage eye for a while lol. That's some karma right there for clipping toenails in class. Okay, I've had a similar experience. I was clipping my fingernails one time and one flew into the corner of my eye. Not too bad. My dad got it out with a toothpick. When I was 5, I was rushed to the ER twice in the same week. First I slid down the banister as the door below swung open and I crashed headfirst into the corner of the door. Then 3 days later I was playing on the radiator, slipped off, and smashed my head again. Doctors thought my parents were abusive and there was an investigation over it, apparently. My brother was so accident prone as a child, still is, actually. It started with stupid stuff as a baby, ate a bulb from a poisonous plant while in his walker, fell off the deck at the babysitter's house. Young cousin was bouncing him on her knee and he tipped forward and hit the coffee table, and just progressed from there. Lots of stitches, a couple of broken bones, a concussion. There was definitely one doctor's visit where he was separated from my parents, who were also separated from each other, and all were questioned. He is really, just that clumsy and lucky. My husband has decided, in hindsight, that it is because his feet are easily a size 13 and he is less than 6 feet tall. He practically has skis for feet. Happened 6 years and 3+ days ago. Was home alone early afternoon. Believed I was home alone. But then I heard a noise that I thought was inside the house. No one else should be home but me, so I was spooked. I crept out and listened for movement and thought I heard a voice downstairs. I tried to sneak down the stairs but only made it to the first step. By the second step my heel slipped out from under me and I planted hard on the step and slid down to the last 3 steps, finally able to stop. My shoulder was sore trying to save myself on the rail. My back is beat to hell from hitting all the steps down. My tailbone is pulsing nothing but pain. Trying to get up made it worse. Nothing felt broken. I was able to get up after a minute or so and baby step around the corner where I found the source. It was my neighbors talking in their backyard, and brother had his window open allowing it to carry into the house. For 5 years if I sat longer than an hour my tailbone coccyx hurt. Watching movies, which I love, was always troublesome. I got seat cushions for it that I couldn't go without at home. About 7 months ago it just stopped. No more pain. Edit, from another comment about it. A few months after the incident I was diagnosed with kidney failure and was on dialysis for a month shy of 5 years when I got a kidney transplant. Throughout my whole sickness I talked about the injury with doctors, had scans, and of course detailed look because of the transplant. No fractures were found. At worst, I had a mini fracture. At best, the excess fluid was exacerbating it. After the transplant I've taken it as a strong possibility that it finally healed thanks to no excess fluid hanging around. One of the small reasons I opted for peritoneal dialysis over hemodialysis. Real talk, check your posture. I took a heavy injury to my coccyx in my mid-teens. My body compensated by tilting my pelvis forward, which then caused the lower third of my back to essentially freeze. It doesn't hurt, but over time the risk of back injury only increases. Worth getting yourself checked by a physio if you can. The voice was your future self trying to tell you to not go down the stairs. Hit myself in the hand with a hatchet. It was so cold I didn't notice until I looked down and saw the blood. When as a kid I was chopping wood, missed the log and went straight into my rain boot. Drank from a glass bottle while walking. Knocked out a piece of my tooth. Also knocked out the Essen glass. My dog jumped in my lap while I was drinking a beer and he chipped one of my teeth with the bottle. I couldn't even get mad, he was so adorable. When I was about 16, I was telling some story to my sister's boyfriend. I was rather animated about it and began to flail my arms about, until I hit the glass fixtures of our ceiling fan and showered glass upon myself. Part of the glass cut around my nose and I began to rain blood. Was left with a nice scar and a decent story about situational awareness while speaking. I gave myself a black eye in my sleep. Rolled into the corner of the nightstand. I had a dream one night where the very end of it had me jump off a cliff. Cue a Wile E. Coyote second of time dilation where I realized I was now off the side of my bed, about to start heading down. I hit the floor to find us wrapped my neck in the tubing for my CPAP. Almost hanged myself. Buried at the bottom so I am safe. I was at work in a high-stress office complex in Virginia. The work made you eat quickly and often at your desk. I was eating a baby carrot and tortilla chips, when all of a sudden I get stabbed with the edge of a chip midway chewing a carrot. Blood all down my throat, the chip was sharp, and I turned blue choking on baby carrots. Good times nearly getting killed by a chip and a carrot. Learn to slow down when eating. No one is safe on Reddit. I was leaning over a fence post trying to bend straight a nail I just hit and bent. Only rather than use the claw of the hammer, I used the face of the head of the hammer, slipped off and smashed myself in the forehead, a good 15 years later and I still have a scar on my forehead like a shit Harry Potter. Like a shit Harry Potter. You're a wizard, you Gaz87. As a kid I saw a rabbit on the other side of a fence so I tried to climb over. Knowing full well it was hot wire. Naturally I fell off the wood between the wires and damn near electrocuted myself when I fell onto the wire. Never did get a hold of that stupid rabbit. That pesky wabbit. As a kid I once wanted to shave myself just like my dad did. It's kinda obvious what happened next. Blood everywhere, I still have a scar on my face. You are not alone in this. I used grandpa's razor. Take your pick. 1. I burned the shit out my hand on a go-kart muffler trying to help the neighborhood kid push it out of a ditch. Ended up with a blister 4 inches high on my palm. 2. I was running through the house, on tile, with socks. Inevitably I slipped and had to catch myself on the couch. Unfortunately I got my finger stuck between the cushions. Broke my finger. Both of these happened in the same year. As a security guard I was running to deal with an issue and my flashlight came out of its pouch, went between my foot and the ground. Stepped on it and broke my ankle. Pull Bart. I tore my navel smoking pot. Please explain. Once as a child I lit a dryer sheet on fire thinking it would burn really fast because it's just fluff, right? Nah, it's more like plastic. And started dripping flaming molten balls of hatred on my floor. I was scared. I panicked. I shook the dryer sheet. A few molten plastic lava ball burns on my face and arms later. I now respect the laundry and leave it to my wife. Bit a goldfish cracker at an odd angle and stabbed my gums. The snack that smiles back. Torn rotator cuff through means of self-loving. Can't beat that. Tried to open a wine bottle with a knife because the cork was stuck inside and my drunken self stupidly thought that if I cut around the cork with a knife, I could just pull it out. I almost cut off my entire finger and had to go to the A&E. Also, as a child I was very tubby, particularly around my waist. One day I was frying something in a flat pan and I wondered how close I could get my stomach to the pan without burning it. I burnt it. And I still have a very slight scar to remind myself of how much of an idiot I can be. Broke my foot kicking the tires of a car I was considering buying. How hard did you kick? I went to take a plate of Totino's pizza rolls out of the microwave. The plate was so fucking hot that I dropped it. Molten cheese bounced up and was burning through my ankle. I went to stick my foot in the sink to run it under cold water as if I am flexible enough to stand on one foot and get my leg up that high. I fell backwards and cracked my head like an egg. I had a 3rd degree burn on my ankle, 2nd degree burn on my fingers and 6 staples to the dome. For fucking pizza rolls at age 30. At work. When I moved to my new workplace, I was forced to switch from regular steel toes to heavy duty boots with a plate over the laces for my protection. While unloading a load of steel, the plate, that is there for my protection, caught on the lip of a steel beam I was stepping over on the stockpile and dropped me from standing up with my head 6 feet up to ground level. Very luckily, there was a 10x6 steel beam to catch me on the edge to keep my head from hitting the concrete floor. And I only had to get 12 staples and take a week off work. Of note, the only reason I bought the friggin' boots in the first place is that the GM noticed I didn't have them and told me if I didn't show up next shift with them I'd be sent home. There was a wasp drowning in the pool and I scooped it up and saved it. In return, it stung me and my hand ended up swelling to twice its size. Will never trust one of those monsters again. B's good. Everything else with a stinger bad. Anybody who has TMJ knows you can aggravate it in the stupidest ways. When I was in high school I was eating an apple and my jaw completely froze as I was taking a bite. The apple was just hanging from my mouth suspended by my teeth. I looked like a horse with brain damage. I had to get my dad to extract the apple from my mouth. It hurt like a bitch for a long time. I couldn't chew or talk properly for months and my entire face was crooked because my jaw was stuck off to one side. It healed eventually, but later I set it off again by eating a cookie. I once set it off by yawning too wide. It sometimes goes off on its own for no reason. I wish I knew what it was like to have a working jaw. I'm sorry this happened to you, but I look like a horse with brain damage is making my whole night. I wonder if I can jump high enough to hit the doorframe with my head. Poked my eye putting on safety glasses. Got my lip stuck in a Ramune bottle. Cut myself with a pretzel. Twice. The same pretzel? Went headfirst on a boogie board down a carpeted flight of stairs, with a landing at the bottom. Dunno if the dent in the wall or my head was bigger. Dislocated my shoulder by throwing a frisbee really hard. I tried to iron a shirt while I was wearing it and burned my boob. I tried to throw a dart into the bullseye on a dartboard that was on the floor, but threw the dart right into my left foot instead. Remember when your parents told you to tie your laces or you would hurt yourself? Well, they were right. I was that kid who ran with untied laces. I fell and instinctively put both my arms out. I landed on my right hand arm and managed to snap my forearm and dislocate my wrist. As I had dislocated my wrist before, as I was accident prone, I attempted to pop it back in myself in panic. I can't describe the crunchy noise that my arm made, or the pain I felt. I then had to walk to the nurse's office at my school, and wait for my parents to pick me up. They didn't think it was serious. At the hospital the x-ray was a little extreme, and I had to have surgery to correct my arm. 14 years later, and my wrist still isn't the same, and it still hurts in the cold. Life tip: tie your fucking laces. I was shooting basketball when I was a kid and kept missing. I got really mad and threw the ball as hard as I could because I was done. It ended up hitting the pole and bounced back hard enough that it smashed me in the face, completely off my feet, and I smashed my head on the asphalt. I was listening to music while getting ready to cook dinner and decided to use the frying pan as a mic. Did one of those look away from the mic to take a breath moments only to turn back dramatically at a powerful lyric and hit myself in the face with the pan.